Good morning, Trains Nation. Welcome to another video episode of Trains Newswire. Today is Friday, November 11th, 2016. We're glad you could join us. I'm Steve Sweeney.
And I'm Assistant Editor Brian Schmidt.
And like I said, we're glad you could join us today. Brian, gee, I can't imagine that there's anything to talk about this week.
There isn't. All the news is done.
It's done. That's right.
It's clean slate this week.
That's right. End of history. And all we want to do is talk about steam locomotives. No. Well, okay. In all seriousness.
We have to. It's our job.
We have to. We have to talk about what happened on Tuesday briefly. There was an election. Donald Trump won. And what we've got for you this week are a whole bunch of stories on what happened with the elections. There are transit stories that Malcolm Kent did for us. There's a wrap-up of what rail organizations think of Donald Trump being elected. There's also a passenger story by Bob Johnston. And also, we have an 18-minute phone conversation with Fred Fraley about what he thinks is going to happen. And you can read all of this on Trains Newswire. That's TRN, or trainsmag.com. I was going to say trn.trainsmag.com, but it's trainsmag.com.
It is, and going to read that yourself will save us a ton of time today.
That's right. Because, what's funny is that the transit story that came in from Malcolm Kenton was 1,700 words. It was a fabulous job. It's on every transit project ballot initiative that was going on in the United States and that was voted on by voters on Tuesday. Some of them passed and some of them didn't. It gives dollar amounts, it gives dates, it gives details, agencies involved, and it's really just pretty darn fabulous. And it's on Newswire. It's on Newswire right now.
It's a good place for it. It's a lot of news for our readers this week.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You know, and then so what the interesting thing was the audio interview that we posted on Newswire was the first one of those that we did.
Fred's a good topic for the guinea pig there, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I told him he was being recorded, and he said that was fine. But he didn't understand that it was also going to be published. So we had to bleep him out once. We only had to bleep Fred once, which is pretty good for Fred if you've ever heard of Fred or talked to Fred before. So, and he has some interesting insights. You know, as much as people will, as much as viewers out there, you might think, well, you know, Donald Trump is going to kill Amtrak. Fred's not so sure. Fred thinks that Wick Moorman, Amtrak's president, can sort of sit down mano a mano with Donald Trump and figure out a way to make the business case for Amtrak. Now, I don't know if Fred's right on this, but Fred believes it. So I think it's interesting to see. I mean, it's just interesting. Listen to the whole 18-minute conversation. It's well worth your time. It's on Newswire. It went up on Thursday.
Very good. Can we talk some other news this week?
Absolutely.
Well, my first one is kind of election related. That's the SEPTA strike that ended. That was
just
before the election.
Yeah.
And I can't say one way or another that if the transit had been shut down, it would have affected election results in Pennsylvania, but I could see where it would have caused a bunch of challenges and all kinds of things after the fact that so many people couldn't get to the poll.
Yeah.
You know, so that could have been a mess, even if it didn't have a direct
right.
effect.
And that was a huge concern. By Sunday night, and Justin Franz was reporting on this for us. By Sunday night, Pennsylvania's governor and the mayor of Philadelphia had come out against the striking union workers, which was huge. The SEPTA was supposed to go into court on that Monday morning, this past Monday, but then they just settled it out of court completely, which was fine. It was amazing that they went to strike for 6 days and it just like that ended.
Indeed.
It's funky. It's funky. Also on Newswire this week, we've got a story about trolley crash in London,
right?
In London, England. Sadly, several people died. We're going to be following that. There's not much information out right now, but we know that the operator or the driver has been arrested on manslaughter charges. In Buffalo, New York, or suburban Buffalo, New York, steel mill's on fire. It's still on fire. We talked about this.
It's still on fire today.
It's still on fire today.
On Friday.
On Friday,
wow.
Yeah. It caught fire on Wednesday. The former Bethlehem steel plant in Lackawanna, New York, caught fire. They rolled a lot of rail for the United States. I think it was the largest steel mill in the world at one time.
It may have been. It certainly was so. one of the largest suppliers of rail in North America.
Yeah, and go ahead.
And if our readers want to go out trackside and just look at the markings on the rail by their favorite grade crossing, there's a good chance that if it's stamped Lackawanna on the bottom, it came from this Buffalo facility.
Yeah.
It was shut down in the mid-1980s, I think, but there's still a lot of that rail out there.
Yeah. So it really sad story. Acres and acres of buildings still on fire. So we've got that on Newswire. We've got other things on Newswire. One thing, too, interesting, as much talk as we have about the U.S. elections and what's going on here, Canada's transport minister came out this week and said that Canada is going to spend $10 billion on infrastructure. And when Canada speaks about $10 billion in infrastructure, they're talking about roads and rail. So we're waiting to see in the coming days and weeks whether that has anything to do with Via Rail Canada, maybe some upgrades to the transit systems in Toronto, Montreal, and Quebec City. It's interesting. So we're going to be paying attention to that. What else do you got? I saw you got
The only other one I have that you haven't covered is BNSF capital spending. It's down. $100 million this year, they said.
That is significant.
On lower traffic, of course, but what that tells us in some ways is that they don't see this huge spike in traffic in the future because you're always spending for the future. You're keeping in mind how much money you have now and then spending for the future.
Right.
And if they're reducing, that seems to tell me that they're not seeing a spike. It may grow, but not to huge levels in the near future.
Yeah, it's significant. David Lasson's going to be out to the Contractors Show in January, where they're going to announce what capital spending, each of the roads are going to announce their own capital spending, so we're going to be very interested to see what happens with that. We assume it's going to be down, but we don't know how much. So that will tell us how optimistic or pessimistic the railroads are in spending in the future. We got a couple of preservation notes for you. Jim is not here. We told you he's in Savannah, Georgia all this week. And right now he is live streaming from the Association of Tourist Railroads and Railway Museums. Kind of a cool ATR. I like saying that. And he is streaming information and seminars from the conferences that they have down there. So if you happen to be interested in railroad or railway preservation or how to boost your particular tourist museum, and you've got some time, tune in on trainsmag.com and you'll be able to see Jim live streaming and maybe get some education for your organization. I believe Jim's also recording these.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
I hope he's recording these. I think he's recording these. So hopefully we'll be able to package these up at some later point and give you the juiciest bits out there on Trains Magazine's website. And Jim will also be live streaming tomorrow night, that's Saturday evening, for the Trains Preservation Award.
Ooh.
It's $10,000. $10,000. Did I spray? Sorry. $10,000.
You're not a doctor and you're nowhere close to being evil.
I like that. No, $10,000 to a worthy preservation project in North America, and watch live streaming for that. We'll also have a Newswire story coming out live 9 o'clock Eastern Time, Saturday evening. Now the other interesting thing in preservation news, and normally this wouldn't be so big of a deal, but the DC chapter, the National Railway Historical Society, is going to have a tour, a guided tour of the Western Maryland Scenic locomotive shops
in Cumberland.
And property. Yeah, up in Cumberland.
Okay.
In Ridgely, West Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in that area. And they're going to see Malley Locomotive 1309, Chesapeake and Ohio 1309. They're selling tickets to the public. That's on Newswire this week, which is kind of interesting. Selling tickets, to go see the behind the scenes. But here's what we just found out this morning before I came in here. I didn't even tell you yet.
Do tell.
Do tell. Whatever this group sees on the Western Maryland Scenic next Sunday, November 20th, whatever they see is going to be special and groundbreaking. And look, I don't know if it's going to be an announcement. I just heard that it's going to be something above and beyond, so that anyone who's there will get to see something that even Jim Rinn hasn't seen or knows about, which is pretty spectacular. Now this will be, once it's restored, it'll be the largest operating steam locomotive in the world. And the only one that looks like it's going to be topping it is Big Boy. So that's kind of cool. Any kind of news with that is big. So watch for that. Read the story on Trains Newswire, and then watch Newswire all next week to see if we can get a heads up on what exactly it's going to be.
So they'll have this title for a few years until the Big Boy comes back.
That's right. That's right. And then it'll be the Beast of the East.
I got nothing for that, Steve. I don't rhyme that well so early in the morning.
We need more coffee. We need more coffee. But that's right. Let's go get some more coffee. For everyone at Trains Magazine.
Trivia.
Oh, shoot. We need more coffee. No, trivia. So last week's trivia.
He needs more coffee.
Last week's trivia. The port of Wilmington, North Carolina, opened up new trade routes to China and Southeast Asia. And the trivia question was, name two of the five port cities that the ships are going to be stopping at before they get to Wilmington, North Carolina, and then offloaded onto CS6 transportation trains to go wherever they need to go. And one of the correct answerers, there were 23 individuals who answered correctly. Louis Yacovelli?
Okay, I
Yacovelli?
can't read your writing
With an
on any
IAC,
given day.
Yacovelli. And Louis, you said Ningbo, China, and Busan, North Korea. Those are correct answers. You spelled them correctly, and you put them up on the comments section of the Trains Magazine video website.
What does he win?
He wins a 20th Century Limited DVD.
Ooh, that's nice.
Produced by Trains Magazine. It's kind of awesome. So I'll be sure to send me your address and your name to newswire@trainsmag.com. It's an email address, newswire@trainsmag.com with your mailing address, and I'll be sure to get that out to you very shortly. The other 3 ports, by the way, are Qingdao, Xinjiang, and Shanghai. Xinjiang and Shanghai.
Do we have a question for people today, or are we
We
skipping?
do. No, we've got one
do.
today.
Okay.
Look back on a Newswire this week. Look back on a Newswire. Once you see the Newswire story, you'll understand what I'm talking about. There was a rail supplier that was awarded an innovation award, has an innovation technology award. It was the only railroad industry supplier and the only company from the railroad industry to receive this. The others were from Silicon Valley or Switzerland or somewhere else. And look at that story. The question is, what technology is this rail supplier using to look at cross ties? Rail supplier got a huge innovation award. What was the technology that they used to look at cross ties? Put your answer in the comment section below the video on the trainsmag.com page. In the comment section.
Because Jim's not here, mail it written down on fresh $20 bills.
On fresh $20 bills, that's right. And send it to me or Brian. I prefer 50s.
I'm not greedy.
And then we'll be glad to give your answer a little bit more prominence. That's cool.
I think that's all I have.
We
How
got
about
it?
you?
I'm going to go get some more coffee. All right. So for everyone at Trains Magazine, I'm Steve.
I'm Brian.
Have a great weekend. Hi, Mom.
I know she's watching too.
Of course she.
Yeah,
No, she
well.
doesn't have the internet.
Oh, you had to ruin that one. We're in studio lights. This is a studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but my sweater looks good. I like that. It's not so wrinkled right now. In this light. Anyway,
I'm live. I'm not saying anything to that.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Michael Gross, and this is New York's Grand Central Terminal, the home port, if you will, for the 20th Century Limited's nightly dash to Chicago.
The red carpet, you know, there's so many things about the 20th Century Limited that really set it aside from all other trains.
The 20s certainly roared for the 20th Century Limited. On some nights, the train ran in as many as 7 sections.
The synergy between Grand Central Terminal and 20th Century Limited was magical.
In the depths of the Great Depression, these new trains offered the hope of a better future.
The Broadway in the Century would become the first all-room trains.
J3 Hudson could pull probably 16 to 18 cars.
The 1948 Century would still put most other trains to shame.
Well, the Century was the best train out there. It was clean, it was elegant, and it was always on time.
The 20th Century Limited, just the most famous train in the world.